Welcome to another episode of Sports and Discourse with your host, Derek Stevenson. And today I got a real special guest, my guy, Coach Ty. This is one of my guys that is teaching me how to play Call of Duty right now. But most importantly, Coach Ty is he has a lot of experience with coaching high school kids. He trains and he's a coach. And I want to talk to him today about the transfer portal and get his insight on it. So, Coach Ty, before we get into it, can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself and your coaching experience, or just your basketball experience in general, and we'll get into it.
Well, a little about me is I played 1 year in Montgomery County, then went to Colorado. After that, I came back and played. Actually, I played in Kentucky. I played at Springfield at St. Catherine College before it got shut down. Played there for 3 years. Then I came back to Kentucky, came to Lexington and worked at KBA at the time, Kentucky Basketball Academy. And, we ran the leagues, had AAU tournaments. And that's kind of where I really got into the love of coaching and training. I started training kids. I started out coaching my very first team at the Junior Wildcat League there, and then went from there, went to AAU, coached a little team in Lexington, the Lexington Lightning. Actually, funny story is on the Lexington Lightning, I had, let's see, two of those players two of those players played D1 basketball, which is funny enough, and it's just a small little team. Then after that, I went to another team with CKY Magic. That
Gotcha.
team was, a powerhouse pretty much. That was the best kids in Lexington. Uh, let's see, you had Ray Surratt, who is a manager at UK right now. Then you had you had Quest, who is at NKU. So you had Amari Taylor, who's getting ready to go back to play college ball. Scrap. I mean, I could go on and on. Then after that, I went to Louisville Magic, which was an Adidas sponsored team that traveled all over the country with that. Then I became a coach at Tate's Creek, which I am still there now.
Fellow alum, Tate's Creek. Yeah, man. So you done kind of seen it all. You done it. So let's get right into it, man. So Kentucky and probably every school across the country now is going to be dealing with the issues in the transfer portal. Kentucky has been getting hit hard with players leaving ever since Calipari has been at the school, but now it's a little different because at first we had to worry about losing our starters or guys that had extreme potential. But now we losing guys just because maybe they might not be getting enough playing time. Maybe they might feel they can make more money or trying to better their draft spot. So, with that being said, we had Ugonna Onyenso, who initially his camp was saying that they were going to reclassify, come to Kentucky, they were going to get better and prepare for the next season. And then, maybe things didn't go as he might have hoped his freshman year. He didn't really get to play much. Um, Maybe he might have been a little discouraged, or maybe his handlers were a little worried about how he was going to be developed. And he decided to jump in the portal, which kind of shocked me. But what shocked me even more was he returned. So I want to get your opinion on kids, as far as a coaching perspective. How do you treat situations where you have kids that are unhappy, that may want to leave, and then, follow it up with how would you handle a kid that wants to return?
Well, I mean, every situation is different. Let's just be all the way honest. Some kids are going to play more than others. That's just the way the world works. And at the end of the day, you can't make everybody happy. I've had kids that want to leave, and my thing is, if you want to leave, make it a good reason. Like, if you think you can shine in another place, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to support you. You can always come back. A friend of mine told me something, and he said, if you coach that kid, you're going to coach that kid for life. That's going to be your kid for life. So no matter where you go, you're always going to be a kid that I coached. But also you got kids that make decisions on the fly because maybe you had a bad game. Oh, I'm done with this. I'm going to leave. And you got to coddle them a little bit more than what you would do when me and you was growing up, where hey, you just got to get over and play. Mom, dad, hey, I want to leave. Nah, you ain't leaving. You don't pay the bills. That's just the way it is. So you got to teach these kids, hey, the grass might not be greener on that other side, but if you want to go and see, go ahead. I can't stop you. As far as coming back, I think you have to handle that with care. You can't treat them any different, because if you treat them any different, now the team's going to treat them any different. One thing about Cal, I give Cal tons of credit. No matter who leaves, he still supports them. Hey, that's a kid that I've coached. That's a kid that I coach. As far as the team is going to have to get over the fact that one player left and wants to come back. That kid has to earn their trust now. It's not up to that team. It's up to him to earn the team's trust. Because let's be honest, if one kid doesn't trust the team, or the team don't trust the kid, it's not going to work. And I think that's kind of what we've seen with the past UK's team. I don't think they trusted each other. So, I mean, you can see that with the Instagram post of all of them leaving and the Kentucky post, it doesn't match up. It really does not match up. Like when he sent the when I think he sent the I'm leaving message, and then normally Kentucky's on it. Like normally, today, let's just say John Wall, you're going to make an announcement. Tomorrow, DeMarcus, you're going to make an announcement. I don't think Kentucky really knows when these kids are making the announcements right now. Just my opinion. I don't have any insight on that. But as far as him coming back, Cal's going to have to tell him, hey, you're going to have to work 10 times harder to get their trust. And that's something that these kids sometimes don't want, don't understand that. And then, like you said, the handlers. Sometimes the handlers don't have the best interest in hand. Sometimes the handlers is more about their pockets and not the kids' pockets. I'm not saying that is the case for this one, but and there's good handlers, there's bad handlers. I mean, it's just the business we're in. But I think in that situation, Cal's going to have to say, hey, sit him down and say, listen, you said you wanted to leave. Okay, that's fine. Now you want to come back, and you're going to have to earn these kids' trust, because you've got a crazy incoming class. Probably one of Cal's best classes ever is coming in, and you have to earn minutes, and it's not going to be given anymore. You're going to have to earn these minutes with these kids. So that's kind of I'll say that's how I would go about it. I'm not Cal, but that's just how I would see it.
When we talked a little bit offline, one of the things that made me want to have this conversation with you was when you said that maybe this is something that Cal can use to his advantage, as far as like letting the kids see what their real value is. So do you think that may be the case? Like explain your thoughts on that.
So from what I've heard is, I mean, from what I heard, I've heard Cal once the season's done, and the Cal will set the kid down, and they have their exit interview, just like any coach does. It's the exit interview. Go to the draft? Do you not? Blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes the kids that are on the fence, he'll call, a scout or whatever, and say, hey, what is this kid's draft potential? And I think that's an amazing thing. I think sometimes the kid has to get a reality check, and where we sit down. Okay, let's call a scout or a recruiter, a ranker, and say, hey, this kid's on the market. Do you think he can go anywhere and get significant playing time? Sometimes you'll probably hear yes, sometimes you probably hear no, but the kid gets a reality check of, well, shoot, maybe if I do, maybe this is the best place for me to stay. I think that's kind of a way to go about to show him, listen, you're here for a reason. You're not here for we have this many scholarships and we offered you one. Cal can go out and get any kid he wants, and we offered you this scholarship. So if you want to go, that's perfectly fine. But I just want to show you this is the market for you.
Um, and one thing that you said earlier that was interesting to me was when you made the comment about when you coach a kid, you coach him for life, right? And it reminded me of, I know you probably seen it after Kentucky beat Providence and Bryce Hopkins was emotional and Cal embraced him and hugged him. So what I wanted to ask is, in those type of situations, do you feel like maybe some of these kids may have made mistakes, or like in his case, he showed out all year, but then at the biggest stage, when he could have made his biggest statement, he came up a little bit short. So do you think in most cases these kids are just not working as hard, or because it what it looked like was he stepped down in competition and maybe he shined a little bit because his competition was a little less. Maybe he wasn't good enough to play at Kentucky. Expand on that a little bit for me, if you will.
So I've been on, I haven't been on the end of leaving a team and going to play against them, but I've had the experience of coaching a kid that has left the program um and wind up, you coach against them. And sometimes, you sometimes in those situations you want it so bad. You want it, like, you want to prove, even though you might have left on good terms, you might have left on bad terms or whatever, but you want to prove yourself so bad. You want to go out there and say, this is what you let go. This is me. I should have been playing on that spot. I should have been doing this. That's not every scenario, but I think in that game, you could tell he was forcing stuff. You could tell he wanted it so bad. Um, yes, I'm always going to say that not every kid is D1. Let's just be honest. Not every kid's D1, not every kid's D2, D3, NAI, JUCO, whatever. So if you, let's say you go to a Kentucky and you're not getting the minutes, and you go to just a Providence and you're wrecking shop there. We always say there's levels to this. Every kid has a level. Bryce might Providence might been his level. UK might have been just a little bit, above the water for him. But when you play against Kentucky, what do you want to do? You want to beat them. You want to shine, especially a kid that played at Kentucky that said he deserved these minutes, said he did this. So I think in that instance, like, you want it so bad that your adrenaline's rushing. The first 2 minutes you're gassed because you're running up the court. You want to score 81 points in the first 2 minutes. You just want to show them that. But at the end of the day, I think he fell short because he wanted it so bad.
Got you. To bring it back to Onyenso, right? Were you did it surprise you that he put his name in the portal like it kind of did me?
Oh yeah, I mean, he was, like, from what I've heard, he was the next one. Like, they was going to do some big things for him. So then when he put the name in the draft, name in the portal, I was like, what? They was talking you up for like, he had good spot minutes this season. Like, he was doing amazing. So then they was getting him ready and prepped for this year. So when he put his name in the portal, I was like, what are you doing?
One thing I want to ask you, because obviously I've been to one of your workouts now, so I seen how you get busy with the kids, and what I want to ask is, how much do you put on the kid to develop themselves in their off time versus how much really gets done during the season? Like when you coach at Taste Creek, how much time can you really put into developing the kids versus what you expect from them to bring to the table on their own time?
Well, one thing that me and Coach Gay always say is, do things on your own. We're allowed 2-hour practices, and then there's a time limit of how many hours in a week we get to work with those kids.
Was it
So
like 20 or something?
yeah, it's like 20 or something. I can't. I've been out of the game for 2 years. I got to get back into the flow of that. But we're allowed a certain amount of time. So that's conditioning, that's weightlifting, that's film, and all of that. So there's only so much we can do with the kids. Is what I tell them is, work on stuff on your own. You know what you need to work on. You know what I harp on you on. So as you saw in the workout is, if you come out of shape into this workout, I'm going to know that you're not putting in no work. The kids that come back to the workouts, I can tell. And The thing is, it's so fast. Like the season goes by like this. The season really goes by like this. The practices, the off-season workouts, it just goes by like this. 1 minute, like me and Coach K always gives us a practice sheet. And before too long, we got to mark stuff off because we don't have time for it. Because teaching and this, like a lot of these kids don't know what they think they know. So you have to go back and reteach and reteach and reteach. And I put a lot on those kids. I put a lot of, hey, you need to go run. You need to go get shots up. If you're working with a trainer, you need to get with your trainer during the season too. Not to, kill you, but at least to, get your shots, get your reps if the gym isn't open. So I put a lot on the kids for them to come back, iron sharpens iron.
Right.
Go with your teammates. Go with your teammates to work out. That's kind of what we preach to them.
I got you. And one thing I was gonna ask you too, right? Okay, I know that you're not coaching at Kentucky level, but you have coached elite athletes, some guys that have went on to much higher levels.
Mhm.
So what I want to ask you is, how long do you typically think it takes before kids really start to develop a specific skill or whatever it is that you may be teaching them? Like if you give them like, I want you to put this move in your bag, how much time and work do they have to do before you feel like they can comfortably perform it in a game setting?
It depends on the kid, honestly. I've had a kid that I could teach one move all summer. You know what I'm saying? It really just depends on the kid. Like some kids can pick it up like this. A kid that I'll give some love to that I've worked with since sixth grade, Amari Taylor. Amari Taylor, I can show one move to. He's going to perfect it within about a couple weeks, maybe even a week. Uh, another kid, another kid that who's no longer here, a kid named Kobe. Kobe was a kid that I like. Kobe was a kid that I had in the gym at 1 in the morning because he wanted it so bad. He would pick up the move. Quest at NKU, same thing. Some of those kids can really get it, but then some of those kids that are not as talented as a Quest and Amari, they take a little bit more time. Maybe a couple weeks to get it. If you can't do the move in a workout, or if you can't do a move in practice, don't do it in the game. Just don't do it because I'm going to rip you because you're just not ready. So it just depends on the kid, honestly.
And that brings me to something that I was going to actually ask you, but that was a good segue to it, right? Because a lot of people was confused this year. Kentucky had so many different lineups, right?
Mhm.
Uh, I think they had over 10 different starting lineups, and it might have ended up being more than that. But at one point, I know they had 10 different starting lineups, right? Um, so a lot of people like me and a lot of my audience, we sit back and we watch some of these games and we look and we say things like, well, why isn't a dude Thero playing? Why does CJ Frederick keep getting so much time when he's not shooting the ball well? Why hasn't Casey Wallace been moved to the point guard position earlier? So, what I want to ask you is, from a coach's perspective, what's more important as far as determining playing time? Is it how they perform in the game, or do you go by how they practice? Or is it just like different for different kids? Like, what's the process behind determining who plays and how much they play?
I think that's honestly, I think different coaches have different theories on this. With us, it's practice. Are you doing the right things? Are you doing what we ask you? Then, if you're doing that, okay, we're going to give you playing time. But that playing time is, let's say I give you the start, and at the 3 minute mark, you're not producing. Okay, cool. Guess what? I'm going to put somebody in that is producing. So then, if he's producing, I'm going to keep that going. I think with Cal, I think Cal gets too stuck in his ways. I truly believe Cal gets stuck in his ways. And sometimes Cal, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to show you this is going to work. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. I think Cal is a smart enough to coach to know, hey, guess what? Casey should have been at the one, but I'm going to see. I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him this chance, and to see. But in our, in Tates Creek, I think what we judge is practice. Are you doing what you're supposed to in the classroom? You know, Kentucky is a higher level. They get to practice as much as they want and whatnot. And I think also is, are you doing what we ask you on the court? There was one kid that we asked, hey, we just want you to take charges and rebound. At the end of the year, for us, he had 40 charges and led the team in rebounds, but he stayed on the court because he did his job. And I think defining roles sometimes is good, but sometimes you got to let them be their self, be their own player as well.
Do you think do you think it's difficult for players because what you reminded me of is Chris Livingston because I feel like that's a similar situation. Not I'm not saying that Cal told him to just take charges and stuff like that,
Oh no.
but Cal very very much limited him versus how he was able to um have the ball in his hands and basically had a green light in high school. Um do you think it's super difficult for players to adjust? Uh, and how do you deal with players when you give them roles that maybe they aren't really receptive to in the beginning? Have you had issues with players not being receptive to the assignments that you've given them?
Oh yeah. I mean, you think about it. You tell a kid that averaged 40, it would average 30 points at their high school. Like Cal's got like kids that are averaging 30, 20, 25, the star of their state, star of the team, to ask that kid, hey, you're not going to get 15 touches. You're going to have to rebound. And that kid's looking like, wait, I'm just Gatorade player of the year, and you're telling me to do this? Wait, whoa, 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 hold up. I could have went somewhere else. But I think once they buy in, I mean, we look at the Anthony Davis team. And the what was it? The Anthony didn't score any points, but he had like double digit rebounds, double digits blocks. Number one player in the draft, and that's buying into your role. Yeah, he scored whatever, but in that championship
I think he
game,
was the fourth leading scorer on the team, or maybe it was the fourth amount of shot attempts or something like that.
was so. I mean, I've had to tell a kid, hey, listen, you're a shooter. You shoot that ball. And I'm the coach that if you don't shoot that ball, come on, sit right down here beside me because I asked you to shoot. You're a shooter. You shoot. That's what you do. If you're wide open, take the shot. I'm not going to yell at you if you miss it. I'm not going to yell at you if you make it. I'm going to yell at you if you don't take that wide open shot. Um, and it's crazy that some kids have a problem with doing that. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes roles are defined within practice. What is that kid doing well? We need this. What is that kid doing right? Okay, you're doing that right so much. Hey, I need you to do that. I think in Cal's situation, you know, I think sometimes those athletes are just so amazing they can do anything. Like some of those kids he's got can be, spot up shooters, get to the basket, break down the defense. But to tell them, hey, I want you to just do this, and then nah, I can do this better. I think it's a fine line that he has for that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear your perspective on it because when you talk about the athletes and things that he has, right? Because what I notice sometimes is when the players get to play freer,
Mhm.
they just perform so much better. When I seen Chris Livingston flying all over the court, and it seemed like he wasn't thinking the game, he was just reacting off instinct. He was so much better. And it just made me realize I said, man, he's going to put his name in the draft and he's going to get drafted in the first round. Now, I'm not sure how high it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure he's going to go to a workout and look great. And we're
Oh,
going to be left wondering, like, where was all of this at?
mhm.
Um, and it seems like a lot of Cal's players, they have trouble learning and functioning in the system initially. Um, and it kind of leaves us like scratching our heads because eventually a couple years later, they look professional and they polish up and it just makes it look like, wow, like we should have had like 8 championships. But what I want to ask you is, do you think it's like how much of your job on the sideline is motion or offenses, sets versus how often do you just let players be players?
Uh, it's 100% our job. I mean, there's no. My job is to make the kid look good. My job is to put that kid in the ideal to make sure that he is successful. And it's my job to stay up all night if I have to figure out what can I do to make this kid better. What can I do to put this kid in that situation? Um, I think that's the hard one of the hardest parts of our job is to do that. Because it might be an awkward fit, it might be something that we don't see. Um, especially on the court, especially on the court with the game, a friend of mine, Andre Mahorn, he told me the game is like it's like music. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have your hooks. You got to find the flow of the game. You got to find the flow of the game. And my style is I'm going to let you play within a system. You're going to play in this system, but you're free to make plays. You're free to do these things. But if you go outside that system and it doesn't work, you got to come out because I'm giving you the freedom. Like you said, a friend of mine said, "Hey, sometimes you just got to let the horses go. You just got to let them run. You got to let them play." And I think, like you said, once they start playing and once they start to read and reacting, they're so much better than having them just say, "Hey, you go to this spot, you screen here, you turn, you catch the ball, you pass it back out." Then you put them, then they're robots. Then they're just being robots out there when instead of, hey, reading, hey, this guy's coming, I'm gonna throw a oop. You know you're gonna cut back. But pickup games, that's where you learn that stuff. So I think that's 100% is our job to figure that out.
Let me ask you this too, because I know that to a degree you've been involved with recruiting with probably with your AAU teams and such. So when you were scouting players to potentially play for you, do you scout them as if they how they would fit in your system, or do you just look at the type of player that they are, and then maybe you go, we'll try to make it work. Like how much of it is you looking for specific types of players versus you just getting the best you can get and trying to put it all together.
I think if you get the best of the best, I don't think the best of the best could beat a team that is systematically placed. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't think you get if you get 1 through 5 in the top recruiting class, that's your AAU team. But then you got to play me, who let's say I've got the number one point guard, I've got the fourth best shooter, so on and so on, that fits that system. I think that's a lot better. When I was recruiting for the AAU team, there were specific players that we looked at. Okay, hey, we have a point guard. Okay, guess what? I need to find a center. Okay, this center's good, but is he willing to give up the shots to make the team great? So that's kind of how we placed it in that aspect. Luckily, the other team, CKY Magic team, we actually had the best of the best, but they kind of grew up together from like third grade on, so they was used to playing with each other. Like the point guard was the center at in third grade, so they kind of got to play with each other from early on to pretty much the senior year.
Got you. Yeah, man. Well, or you pretty much have it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to ask you while I got you on the line, man. Not that I couldn't just bring you back for another show, but I'm sure I will anyways. But yeah, man, you pretty much enlightened me on some things. Because every time you look at this situation with Cal with all of these recruits and then you see the system, a lot of it just gets confusing. And like even this year, right? I feel like Calipari loves Severe Wheeler. And I feel like it broke his heart to put him on the bench. And I think it broke Severe's spirit. I'm not gonna say Severe quit on the team, But what I think happened, I think they came to a mutual agreement that he was going to leave, and I think Cal decided not to play him anymore. Um, but I know that hurt Cal because I know Cal loved that kid. So it's just been great to hear you give me some perspective because a lot of the times we just don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, and we don't know how hard it is to put this stuff together. But right before I let you go, I want to ask you one more thing. How do you feel overall about the transfer portal? Do you think it's good for college? Do you think it's bad? Or does it just need to be tweaked? And if it does, do you have any suggestions?
I have a love hate with the transfer portal. I do. I think it's I think it's good for kids that need a second chance. That I think it's good for that. I think if it's not a fit for the kid, you can go. But I think sometimes it's a crutch for kids. Oh, you're not playing me. Well, son, that you're not making times, you're not going to class, you're not doing these things. Well, I'm just going to leave. I'm out of here. Hold up. Why can't we work on these things to get you? Because let's be all the way honest. If you don't go to work and you don't got money, your lights don't stay on. You don't have a house. You don't have nowhere to run to. So I think the NCAA needs to tighten up a little bit. But as far as any advice, good luck. I mean, because let's be all the way honest. If they say they like apples, half of the world's gonna say no. You should like oranges.
Right.
That's just that's the way it is. So you're not gonna please everybody.
Yeah. All right, man. This is my last question, and I promise you, I'll let you go. We only got like 6 minutes, anyways. Um, so initially in the beginning of this season, I thought Kentucky would flirt with the idea of small ball. Um, it's pretty much seeming like the days of the back to the back center may be dead. It's at least dying.
Right.
But for some reason, Cal still holds on to it. He holds on to the traditional idea of two front court players that play around the basket, um, and the traditional three perimeter players. Do you think that those days of basketball are completely dead? Can you still win like that? Or does Cal is he is he is he putting the nail in his coffin, or is he going to have to change in order to win again?
I think he's got to change to win again. I do. I think the old days Indiana Hoosiers post up here. I think that's dead. I think you have to have a center that can hit the 15 feet. I think you have to have the center that can put it on the ground. Um, I think, and I'm very shocked that Cal doesn't do that because if we looked at Cal's teams before, like he was ahead of his time. Now it's like everyone is catching up, if not surpassing him at times. And I'm a huge Cal fan. I love Cal. I mean, just like everybody else, we love Cal, but I'm very surprised that he hasn't switched up his system. Each team, let's be honest, each team doesn't cut the dribble drive, doesn't have these, you're gonna have to change up your ways.
Yeah. When you got two or three super guards that can get to the basket, and you got athletic bigs that can fly and catch alley oops, that stuff it works a little better.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I agree with you, man. I think those days are dying, and Aaron Bradshaw seems to be one of those type of centers that could put it on the ground a little bit. He can space the floor a little bit. So I hope that he's able to reach his full potential and expand his game. Like we thought some of the other centers like Oscar Sheway and guys like that were gonna be able to try to do, and it didn't happen so much, man. But anyways, listen, guys, this is Coach Ty. I appreciate you coming on the show, my brother. Before you get out of here, man, if you want to let people know where they can find you on Twitter, on Twitch, whatever the case may be, go ahead and get that off right now.
Well, I think my Twitter is Coach Ty _. Make sure you come out to Taste Creek, support us this season. We're going to be exciting. I'm looking so much forward to putting together a great roster with those kids, and we're working really really hard. this summer is going to be big for us. We got three big time returners coming back, and I'm really excited to see what we can do this year.
That's what my brother, Coach Ty, man. I appreciate you, man. And I'll hit you later tonight. I'm sure we're gonna be playing some
Oh
Call
yeah,
of Duty.
you know it.
Yes, sir. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Sports and Discourse with Derek Stevenson.